Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the massive, world-altering economic shift being driven by artificial intelligence. This is a big one, so let's get started.
All right, let's start with a question that I know is on your mind, because it's on mine too. How is all this going to affect my job? My career, my paycheck? It's really the most personal piece of this whole economic puzzle.
If you look at the headlines, it's just this whirlwind of hype and fear, right? It's either a work-free utopia or total mass unemployment. But like with most huge technological shifts, the reality, it's way more nuanced, and frankly, a lot more interesting than either of those extremes.
And check this out, because this really challenges that simple AI is going to take all the jobs story. What the research is showing is that for certain roles, AI isn't a replacement at all. It's more like a performance enhancer. It basically takes all the knowledge of the top performers and just shares it with everyone, especially the newcomers, which levels the playing field and makes the whole team better. So this is the core tension you've got to understand. Is AI a complement or is it a substitute? On one hand, it can be this incredibly powerful assistant, kind of like a sidekick that makes us way better at our jobs. But on the other hand, for tasks that are super repetitive, yeah, it can absolutely just take over the work humans used to do. It's this dual personality that makes the impact so tricky to predict. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Let's look at the bigger picture and see how this tech isn't just changing individual jobs. It's actually fueling this massive economic boom, creating value on a scale that is honestly kind of hard to wrap your head around. $13 trillion. I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. That's the staggering figure some economists think AI will add to the global economy in less than a decade. We're not talking about small, incremental growth here. This is a force big enough to completely reshape whole industries and even create markets that don't exist yet. And here's the other side of that coin. While some jobs are definitely going to change, the World Economic Forum thinks AI is going to help create 69 million new jobs by 2028. And these aren't just the same old jobs. We're talking about roles that literally didn't exist a few years ago, things like AI verifiers, prompt engineers, and machine learning specialists. And let's tie this back to what we saw earlier with those customer service agents. See, that massive economic growth? It comes from two places. One, creating totally new kinds of work, and two, making the work we already do way more efficient. This 34% boost, that's the engine under the hood. That's what's powering these real, measurable gains that scale all the way up from a single employee to the entire global economy. But look, this kind of rapid change is never a smooth ride for everybody. It comes with some really serious friction and critical challenges. We're talking everything from a growing global divide to some very, very tricky technical problems that we absolutely cannot afford to just ignore. You can already see this stark divide emerging. On one side, you have the AI leaders, think the US and China, who are just pouring billions into innovation. And then on the other side, you have developing economies, like Peru, for example, that are really struggling to keep up. It's creating a whole new kind of global inequality. And for a lot of these countries, the hurdles are just fundamental. You've got a shortage of trained experts, sometimes cultural resistance to big changes, not enough investment, and basic stuff like not having the right digital infrastructure. All of that just combines to slow things down and make that global gap even wider. And it's not just about economics. There are huge technical hurdles too. See, these AI systems are only as good as the data they learn from. So if the data you feed them is flawed or reflects old biases, well, the AI is going to learn those biases and can even make them worse. The famous case with Amazon's hiring tool is just a perfect cautionary tale of what can go wrong. This is what people call the black box problem. When an AI makes a call, like denying someone a loan or suggesting a medical diagnosis, it can be almost impossible to trace back why it made that specific decision. And that lack of transparency, it's a massive challenge for accountability, especially in really critical fields like finance and healthcare, where you need to know the why. So you've got this incredible opportunity on one hand and some pretty significant risks on the other. So how are we responding? Well, the good news is that people are not just sitting on their hands. There are proactive steps being taken at literally every level of society, from small towns all the way up to entire countries. At the state level, leaders are definitely paying attention. California, for instance, is making these huge partnerships with tech giants like Google and Microsoft. The goal is to bring AI training and tools to millions of students. basically trying to build an AI-ready workforce right from the ground up. Then at the corporate level, you see companies building whole new kinds of infrastructure to manage this change. You've got platforms being created to connect the supply of workers with AI skills to the huge demand from businesses. And what's really cool is they're using AI itself to make that matchmaking process smarter and faster. And it's happening on the ground level too. This example shows how adaptation is really happening in our communities. A $75,000 grant from Microsoft in LA County is specifically designed to help small businesses get the digital skills they need to actually compete in this new economy. It's really targeted practical help. Okay, let's look way, way out to the far horizon for a minute. Beyond the immediate stuff about jobs and skills, some economists are asking a much bigger, more fundamental question. What actually happens to the value of human work in a world where AI can do more and more of the heavy lifting? Now, to try and figure this out, economic models are starting to split work into two different categories. First, you have bottleneck work. This is the stuff that is absolutely essential for the economy to grow. Think energy production, scientific breakthroughs, logistics. And then you have accessory work. It's still super valuable stuff like art, fine dining, hospitality, but it's not a direct bottleneck to overall economic growth. And this, right here, brings us to the most wild and startling conclusion from these new models. And it's a big if, but if we get to a future where AI can handle all of that essential bottleneck work, then human labor isn't the critical ingredient for economic growth anymore. And in that world, the slice of the economic pie that goes to human wages could shrink a lot. Like, it could get pretty close to zero. In this kind of new reality, economic growth is no longer tied to human labor. It's driven purely by how much computing power we can build. The value of your work isn't set by how unique your skill is anymore. It's benchmarked against how much it costs for a machine to do the same exact task. Labor is no longer the bottleneck. And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to chew on. For all of human history, our work has been the essential engine of progress. But in an AI-powered economy, that link could be broken. And it forces us to ask a really profound question. When machines do all the things that are necessary, what kind of work is left for us that's actually meaningful?